Alrighty, just gonna put some new shocks on the rear of my Ranger. So the factory mount style I was using before, I'm not gonna go with. Putting a little bit longer shock on there. So let me kind of give you a quick show of what I'm gonna be doing, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so here's the shock I'm gonna be using, this Bilstein Shock. It's actually, I think the part number, it's a specific model. I think it's for like a Chevy pickup truck in the rear. So the eyelets are a little bit different size, but I got a heck of a deal on it. So these take a 14 millimeter bolt, and then these are 43 millimeters wide. So not your typical like 1/2 inch bolt, 1.5 inch wide. So I had to make some new mounts for it. And so here's the lower one I'm gonna go with right here. So the back side here will actually go on the axle, where it welds the axle. Then basically creates a skid plate across the front so that it helps protect it, because I've hit the shock bodies before on a rock and kind of damaged them. So this is going to be the lower mount. So on there, this portion, if you look at right here, like the one I don't have together, this is equal even with the bottom of the axle tube housing right here. So it'll be flush across, so it'll create a little ramp coming down and then out, and also protect any rocks that may hit it since it'll be facing forward. So that's how the lower mount's going to mount. And then what I'm going to use for the upper mount is going to be one of these guys right here. A little bit different, but what it's going to do is come up underneath here, and inside I'm going to mount it. It's going to weld up into here, back in here inside the frame rail like this, on two on each side into my tube bed. So it raises the eyelet about another inch or so above where it is factory, and then the hole, the big hole here, I'm gonna actually run a tube all the way across to the other side to tie it all together, and then make a bracket that mounts to the frame right here. I'm gonna have to, you can barely see in there, it's my air tank for my York compressor. I'm gonna end up having to move that, figure out somewhere else to stick that. So that'll be part of it. But I'll get this stuff all tacked together, and then start putting together and see where we end up. So the few tacks on here, it's a little bit easier to see, it won't fall apart. But you'll notice all the pieces have little tabs on them so that they all notch together, so that it stays together exactly where it needs to go. So you just push it. So I just had to push them all together and stay. And then I just cut this little piece here, 43 millimeters long, so that it's not even the same size, it's a lot bigger. But it's just enough to keep that space apart so that once it's all welded, it doesn't shrink in. And then when I weld it to the axle, I'll just put it back in there, and then it'll keep it from warping together where you have such a hard time getting the shock in. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Get this all welded up. All right, I pulled out the bed of my truck here so that I can access it easier to get the upper shock mounts done. I'm gonna have to pull off, I'll just remove this one since I'm not gonna use anymore, the factory mount here. And the factory mount up in the corner, about right there, that one will have to come out because I'm gonna end up mounting the shocks to that crossbar going all the way across that the bed is mounted on. And then I will add another brace to it. So the mounts for my air tank, that all need to go, get it out of the way, because the second shock is gonna come up right in this area here, because I'm gonna bring both of them up that direction this time. So that's the plan. All right, to get these rivets out on the hangers, I already did the passenger side, this is just the driver's side, but I took and drilled 3 stepped holes up. Started with about a 16th, 1/8 inch bit, and then about a 1/4 inch, and then around a 3/8. And I just drilled through it till past the frame depth. So each hole is about a 1/2 inch deep, and then I just hit it with the air, and then they pop out. So that one popped out, so now I just gotta get the other. Sometimes you guys gotta put a little muscle on them and they pop off. So I'll get the rest of these 2 off, and then move on to starting get the brackets off that are in there for the air tank, and then move on. All right, so all the mounts are out of the way from the air tank I got down there. I have to relocate that later. So let me show you how the upper mount's gonna work. So this piece of tube right here this 1.25 inch is going to span across the frame. I'll put a tab on each end that goes down, connects to the frame. And then on this piece right here, this will weld into the body, the bed rails right now. There's a piece of angle iron in here that'll go around here, so that'll weld there. This will go across, so should be plenty of support for that upper mount. And then I'm just using these to keep it all squared up. I measured across the frame, and came in, brought these back into the same distance in from where the factory one was, so everything should clear. So now get these tacked up, welded up, and then test fit in the truck. All right, so got the support in across the top of the frame for the mounts, and it's also welded in to the structure of the bed. And then it has a bracket on each side right here coming down that will bolt in to the frame as well. So tying it all together. So now it's on to installing the lower ones. All right, so I got the lower mounts, new mounts on the axle housing. Both those shocks are hung up on there. So bolt those in and finish up the rear shocks on this thing. All right, so the air tank's now mounted back up in its new location. So turned it 90 degrees from where it was, so now it clears everything. And then while I had it apart, I also added an air fitting on each side. So this is just the little bracket here, then you drill a 9/16 hole through it and a 9/16 lock washer behind it with a 1/4 inch male air chuck, and then a 1/4 by 3/8 MPT adapter on the back. I'm making another little video on that, how it goes together real quick. But that made it so that I have one on each side of the truck now. So that makes it easy. And then I also took, and I'm using that Viair 2.5 gallon air tank, and all the fittings on it were 1/4 inch NPT. So I actually tapped it and made 2 of them 3/8 NPT now. And that's what's feeding the air chucks. Then one for the supply line coming off my York. And it seems to be quite a bit faster just off of idle airing up. So I don't know if that's the case or just seems that way. I didn't time it before. But anyway, that's how this is all set up. I actually am gonna take and add the overload spring from the Skyjacker springs back in here, because it seems like when I'm looking at the truck, it seems to be sitting just a little low in the back. So, and I don't have any weight in the back. So I'm gonna add the overload spring back in, and then from the Skyjacker pack, and then should be good to go and ready to go again. Go wheeling.